Today, we're checking out this 256 gigabyte Raspberry Pi 4 Dreamcast only build. As you see, it looks like a little mini Dreamcast, like the SNES Mini or the NES Mini. And cool little menu system, over 250 games. But there's a couple things I want to share with you about the image, as well as things going on right now. You can find this at Arcade Punk's website. And while we're on that topic, there's a bunch of other images. One of them that I haven't reviewed yet is the Mr. Burns vertical image. He just released a version 2. That was a lot of people really like that, especially if you're running a vertical bar top or something like that. If you want to run those classic arcade games, I highly recommend checking out that one. It's a lot smaller. And then there's this one, and I think there might be a couple others. I saw one was a re-release for Christmas, showing off Hershey's Christmas theme. So there's some things on there you might want to check out, especially for the Raspberry Pi. I think right now there's just so many good images already out there that are still relevant, whether you're downloading for the XU4 board or the Raspberry Pi. But this is great to see that we have this new Dreamcast build. I love the Dreamcast. Back when I had the Dreamcast, or when it first came out when I was a kid, you know, you would burn all the CDs and you could get the whole collection. It was such a cool system. And you're about to see in a moment, there's so many good games, both that were ported over to arcade or vice versa. And some classics that, you know, still hold up today. And as I mentioned earlier in the video, the Raspberry Pi delivers on all those fronts as far as performance. So having this purpose-built image, great. As far as a couple cleanup items, like I said, I don't know if I said earlier, you do want a 256 gigabyte Samsung Evo Select or Evo Plus for this to fit. It's kind of crazy. This is only a 100 gigabyte download, and then when you use 7-zip, which I recommend using to extract the file after it's compressed, it turns into a 256, so like almost 2.5x's in size. So that's great because you're not going to spend a ton of time downloading it, but also it will take some time decompressing the file though. But I can show you it does work. It burned on the first time and worked great. So I love the system. I love what they did here, and let's go ahead and check it out. Alright, so as you can see, this looks just like a Nintendo or a Super Nintendo Mini, but it's a Dreamcast Mini with a special custom theme coming from the Retro Devils. This thing's got over 280 Dreamcast games. Let's go ahead and go into them really quickly, but this is running emulation station for your Raspberry Pi, so when you hit start on your controller here, you have the usual configurations. You know, if you use a Raspberry Pi, you know what's up. You can add new controllers, you can change the theme, you can change sound settings, you can scrape artwork, things like that. Now, you also can hit your right trigger on the back of your Xbox 360 controller on the top, and you have the menu system here. And one of the coolest things about this build is going to be this Devil's Box, which I'll get into later. But then you have all your other configurations as well. You can connect to Wi-Fi, so you can add more games. You could download different emulators, all kinds of stuff. All this stuff is still going to be accessible to you with no issues whatsoever. So I accidentally hit into RetroPie there. So just like this, you go into the main RetroPie menu and you'd be able to get all kinds of things and updates. So we are on 4.7.2 in case you were curious of which version of RetroPie. And but if I go back here, here your main wine is a like a desktop. You have desktop wine stuff installed. You also have Mugen installed as well. But what we want is Dreamcast right here. So we go to Dreamcast. I just wanted to show you those settings really quick, and let's go through these games. Starting with the beginning of the alphabet with numbers, 18-wheeler, 4-wheeler, and then into arrow wings. So let's go ahead and have a look at this. This is a 256 gigabyte image, although please be warned, my SanDisk 256 would not accept it. It was right on the edge, so I ended up using a 400 gigabyte SD card. But if you have like a SanDisk, not a SanDisk, I'm sorry, but if you have a Samsung Evo Select or Evo Plus, you should have no problem whatsoever at the 256 level. So just keep that in mind, or just get a bigger card. The nice thing about getting a bigger card is you can absolutely add more Dreamcast games. Now, as we're going through these games, you might notice there's some duplicates here, and that's because D2, for example, has multiple discs. So you just click on one, but it does kind of change the overall count. Moving forward, you got the great Dreamcast. What a cool system, right? Like Daytona USA, great game. Dead or Alive 2, great game. The BMX, great game, as well as the Tony Hawk's. So a lot of skateboarding, you know, X Games type games, really fun. Then you had a lot of zombie games. You had a lot of shoot 'em ups on here. You had Dino Crisis. Even some of the Disney games are really cool. For example, I have to highly recommend Donald Duck Going Quackers. Super underrated game right here. Check that game out. You got Toy Story, not Tombstone. You got Draconus. You got Dragon Riders. Some of these games I've never even played before. You got, Sega continuing their tradition of Echo the Dolphin, as well as you're going to see it has Sonic the Hedgehog, of course. Evil Dead, Evil Twin, and they all work really well. The Raspberry Pi 4 will run Dreamcast just fine, like at full native, 60 frames per second. It'll run it just fine. You're not going to see any major lag in these. It's going to run just fine. So I like this build. I like that it's a purpose-built build. Gauntlet Legends, another great game. Grand Theft Auto 2, man, what a back then those Grand Theft Autos were so much fun. Another game, one of my favorites, Guilty Gear X, as well as Gunbird, really great. Now the Half-Life, I gotta say, I think it's really cool that Half-Life was made for Dreamcast, but the PC game was way better. The controls are way better, everything else. So, but I don't know how everyone else feels about that. So Hydro Thunder, another great game, also in the arcade. Some of these games I haven't even played before, and I would love to. You got Supercross, Jet Grind Radio, another classic. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, another classic arcade game as well. King of Fighters, Soul Reaver, another great game. Looney Tunes, another underrated, fun game to play. There's a couple of racing games on here that are really cool. Mars Matrix, obviously Marvel Capcom 2 is a huge one. You got 1 and 2. So you have another BMX game here. MDK2, super funny game, super cool game. MDK2, that's kind of not a lot of people know that. You got Mortal Kombat Gold, one of the the first, what is that, like 3D, 4D, Mortal Kombat games. Was in that era. MSR, really cool little street racing game if you're into like more simulator based racing back then. I never played skateboarding. I imagine it's nowhere near as cool as Tony Hawk, but I'm sure it has its highlights. So you got Shaquille O'Neal has his own games here. You got your sports games, Blitz, hockey. You're good to go on all those. Outrigger. He even got bowling. Hey, bowl it up. Power Stone 1 and 2, another classic. I haven't played this pinball. I'm curious to try that pinball out. That could be cool. Quake 3 Arena, another great game. So cool it worked for the Dreamcast, but I have to say the controls on I'm just biased towards keyboard and mouse. Rayman 2 and Revolt, both really cool games. Ready to Rumble, boxing, super fun games. Resident Evil 3, Resident Evil Code Veronica, both good games. Another double disc game there. Roadsters, I haven't played that one. It looks pretty good. You got Rush, of course, another arcade game. Sega Bass Fishing, Sega GT. So a lot of, this system was so cool. I had a lot of the arcade games. And then obviously the biggest class is Shenmue. If you've never played through it, it's considered a classic. Skies of Arcadia, another really fun game. Then you got your Sonics. I've never played Sonic Shuffle, but Sonic Adventure 1 and 2. Soul Calibur, South Park Rally. You got Space Channel, Spawn, Spider-Man. You got some Star Wars games on here. The Pod Racer game, fun little racing game. Street Fighter Alpha 3 and Third Strike and Double Impact. Great games again. Good arcade games, good console games. I haven't played many of these. Test Drive 6. Flintstones. Never played that before. Is that Flintstones the movie? Looks like it's Flintstones the movie. Not even the cartoon. The Grinch. House of the Dead 2. So if you have a light gun, there you go. The Typing of the Dead. If you have, a keyboard handy, you can play that. Time Stalkers. Another great game. I didn't know they made a Pearl Jam and Earl. I never played the Dreamcast version. Love the Genesis version. Tokyo Extreme Racer, another cool little, Fast and the Furious type game. Here you got your Tony Hawks, you got 1 and 2. And then Toy Commander, this game's actually kind of fun too. You get to run around shooting like your toys, fun maps, things like that. If you like Revolt, you're going to like that. Unreal Tournament, man. Unreal Tournament was such a classic. Really good, giving Quake a run for its money. Then you got Vigilante. You got Virtual Fighter, Virtual Striker, Virtual Tennis, Wacky Rides, another little interesting fun game. Walt Disney Magical Racing Tour. You got Wet Tricks, which is like a 3D Tetris game. You got your baseball games, and you got your wrestling games. You got Extreme Sports, Zero Gunner 2, and Zombies Revenge. Now, the cool thing, I mean, I don't know if you like this. So there's no video snaps. You know, it is what it is, what you get here, and then it goes back to the numbers here. You can see here on the bottom of your screen, you have select start. You can add things to your favorites. You can pick a random game. You can go back. You can launch a game. Like I was saying earlier, you can hit R1 on your controller here, and you can go. And I'm going to show you this one right here. Everything else here is pretty standard, but you can go down here to the Devil's Box. And this is their, you know, their little toolkit, if you will. It's full of scripts. Oh boy. And so this is kind of crazy here, or kind of cool in my mind. Or some people were like, "Wow, how did they do that?" But that aside, you can go ahead and you can download artwork packs if you're going to add, you know, additional games or a different console packs where you can download an entire console, like all the SNES games, things like that. Got hand-picked games. You even got the pick and choose option where if there's like a certain ROM you're looking for, or game you're looking for, you can get it there. I also like they have the toolbox, which will give you everything. Let's look, audio-visual tools, right? So you could download different themes, right? You could download different artwork. There's audio fixes. So there you go. And then emulator tools, you have different things you can add in here as well. BIOS files, Sega Model 3 installer, PyKiss if you want to do PyKiss. So some interesting scripts you can run there. And then hardware, case tools menu, offline. Okay, so I didn't download that one. Oh yeah, I'm not online. That's why. So you'd have to go online, but there's like the extend your hard drive, you know, things like that. Clear your controllers, little scripts that'll help you out. And then, did we do this one yet? Okay, you can even if when they update their Devil's Box, like the script we're in right now, like this menu system, you can actually update it over time. So it's a potentially a you know, a build that, you know, you can continually update. Now, Diablo's arcade tools, it's only if you download their arcade image, so it's not really for this image. So don't do number 5. So stick in with these. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and exit. But that's one of the big perks that I really like about this that is there. So there you have it. You have a fresh build, rocking, you know, close to over 250 games. Back in the day, I remember Dreamcast, you know, you can burn the games on a disc, but this is so much better as far as, you know, just easeability. Just boot it right up, all your favorite games, looking great. All the artwork is there. The emulators are all set up for you. You can save your states, rewind, do all that fun stuff. And, you know, it's a lot of fun. And it's a purpose-built image, right? So I'm fine with that. These games run about 1 gigabyte each, you know, so 250 games, it's a 256 gigabyte image, is right in the ballpark, right? So if you're like, well, I want 500 Dreamcast games, well, realize that would take 500 gigabytes probably of space to do. So given the constraints and everything else, I think it's really cool. You know, I think I like video snaps, but I understand that if he was to add video snaps for all these, it'd be cool if like you hold on to this and then you could see a little preview of the game right now. You know, kind of like what YouTube does too, right? You have your mouse over, you get to see the first part of the video. I think that'd be cool, but you know, that's the only. I'm just thinking of like what could make this even better, and I think it's just evolving it, the game selection, and maybe a little bit of visual things. But I like the purpose built. You know, it's just like you would get a Dreamcast Mini, but instead of buying one, you get this for way cheaper. But you know, pies are in demand right now. But nonetheless, back when pies were $35, this was a screaming deal. All right, that's what I think. Let me know what y'all think. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll catch you on the next one.